Hello everyone, myself Vinay Kumar M. In this YouTube channel, I will be teaching physics, chemistry and mathematics for 8th standard, 9th, 10th and 11th, 12th standard students. So if you want to know the explanation for physics, chemistry and mathematics subject starting from 8th till 12th standard, then you should subscribe to my channel. Please do subscribe to my channel. So in this video, I will be solving the exercise questions which is there in the 4th chapter of science subjects in 8th standard, that is combustion and flame. So coming to the exercise part, they have asked 13 questions. Let's go on looking one by one. First question is, you have to list the condition at which combustion actually takes place. So the first thing is fuel, because you require a proper fuel which has a very less ignition temperature so that combustion can happen very easily with less amount of energy supply. So the second condition combustion to happen is the ignition temperature of that particular substance. Only when you have less amount of ignition temperature, you can easily reach that temperature by giving little energy, and combustion can easily take place when the fuel has very less ignition temperature. So this is the second condition for combustion to take place. And the third condition for this combustion to take place is that availability of oxygen in the atmosphere. Only when there is certain amount of oxygen present in the atmosphere, the substance which is present in the fuel will get reacted with the oxygen present in the atmosphere, and hence combustion take place. So fuel is very important, ignition temperature of that fuel is important, and even availability of oxygen in the atmosphere is also important for combustion to take place. Coming to the second question in this chapter, you have a set of fill in the blanks. Burning of wood and coal causes dash of air. So that is actually pollution, because when you burn the coal and wood, then it produces carbon dioxide, and because of the release of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, it causes pollution of the air. So pollution is the answer for first question. In second question, LPG will be the answer, because the liquid fuel which we use in our homes is LPG, that is liquid petroleum gas. So coming to the third question, fuel must be heated to what? So fuel should be heated to ignition temperature, then only that fuel starts burning. So answer for this C question is ignition temperature. So coming to the fourth question, the answer is water. When you try to extinguish the fire catched by the oil with water, these water molecules are heavier than the oil molecules. So these water molecules will actually go and sit in the bottom part of the oil, and this oil floats above the water, still fire will be there. So that's why if you try to extinguish the fire for oil products, then water is not a good idea. You should actually use carbon dioxide gas to extinguish the fire catched by an oil product, because water will actually go and deposit at the bottom of oil. It will never try to extinguish the fire of oil products. So the answer for this D question is water. You cannot use water to extinguish fire catched by an oil product. Coming to the third question, how CNGs are reducing pollution in our cities. So use of CNGs will actually reduce the amount of CO2 released into the atmosphere, because petrol and diesel contains lot of carbon molecules which actually gets reacted with this oxygen molecules, and lot of carbon dioxide and carbon monoxide is actually released into the atmosphere. But in CNG, there is no carbon monoxide emission. There is a little amount of CO2 emission which is very much less compared to the CO2 released due to the petrol and diesel burning. Hence, use of CNG will actually cause less pollution to the environment. So it is suggested that instead of using petrol and diesel, we can shift to CNG vehicles so that we can avoid pollution in our environment. So coming to the fourth question in this exercise, they have actually asked to compare between LPG as a fuel and wood as a fuel. So coming to the first point, LPG is more efficient, because when you supply a little energy, this LPG actually catches fire and we can produce energy out of it. When you use wood as a fuel, it is very less efficient, as wood has its ignition temperature very high. Because of high ignition temperature, we have to supply more energy for this wood to catch fire, but we have to supply less energy for this LPG gas, which can be more efficient for our fulfillment of various other energy requirements. So when you combust this LPG gas, more amount of carbon monoxide is actually released into the atmosphere, but whereas when you combust this wood, when you use wood as a fuel, then more amount of carbon dioxide is actually released into the atmosphere. So coming to the third difference, use of LPG is more dangerous, whereas use of wood as a fuel is very less dangerous. Because in LPG, actually the petroleum gas is compressed to form liquid. So there will be high pressure built up inside the LPG cylinder. Only when LPG cylinders are handled very carefully, it can be very much effective. But if it is not handled properly, then it could turn to be more dangerous. So using LPG as fuel is more dangerous. Using wood as a fuel is less dangerous. LPG, when you use LPG, there will be less deforestation happening, because you are not using any wood kind of things to burn this liquid petroleum gas. But here in wood, actually you are cutting the trees and using that wood as a fuel. So that's why here more deforestation happens. So here it is more, here it is less. So less deforestation happens when you use LPG as fuel, and more deforestation happens when you use wood as fuel. So coming to the fifth question, they have asked to give reasons for these following questions. So coming to the first A question, they have asked water is not used to extinguish fire catched up by an electrical instrument. Why? Because when you use water to extinguish fire of an electrical equipment, because this water is good conductor of electricity, it actually conducts the electricity which is present in this electrical equipments. So that is actually more dangerous. So if you use water to extinguish fire catched up by an electrical equipment, then that could be more dangerous, because electricity will start flowing wherever the water is spilled. So that's why water should not be used to extinguish fire which has been caught up by an electrical equipment. So coming to the B question of this fifth question, they have asked LPG is better than wood as a fuel in domestic purposes. Why? Because LPG can be easily stored in cylinders and it can easily be available for our various other energy requirements fulfillment. Since LPG has less ignition temperature, it will act as a more efficient fuel, because even with less amount of temperature, it will catch up fire, and hence we can utilize that fire for our different domestic usages. So instead of using wood as a fuel, we can use LPG as a fuel for our domestic purposes, so that we can even avoid deforestation also. Coming to the C question, there they have asked a paper which is kept open in an environment will easily catch up fire when the ignition temperature is reached. But when the same paper, when it is wrapped with the aluminum foil, it takes time for paper to get fire. Why? Because when you supply heat for that paper directly, the ignition temperature of that paper is reached very easily. But when the paper is kept inside the aluminum foil, when you give the same amount of ignition temperature for that paper through aluminum foil, first that aluminum foil should get heated up, only then the heat which is received by that aluminum pipe is actually transferred to paper, and then paper gets heated up. So there is lot of heat loss happening in between. So because of that, paper catches fire when it is kept open, but when the same paper is wrapped in aluminum foil, even with less temperature, it doesn't get fire very much easily, because most of the heat is lost in the aluminum pipe itself. Coming to the sixth question, they have asked the label diagram of a candle flame. You can refer my previous video for this question, where I have drawn a candle with a flame and I have explained different parts of the flame, and I have also explained what and all things should be concentrated while writing that flame. So you can please refer that video and get answer for this sixth question. So coming to the seventh question of this exercise, they have asked the SI unit for calorific value. As you know, calorific value is the amount of energy which is released due to the combustion of 1 kg of fuel is known as calorific value. So how much amount of energy is released is expressed in terms of joules. How much amount of joules of energy is released into the atmosphere when you burn 1 kg of fuel is the definition for calorific value. So the unit for calorific value will be joule per kg, because that much amount of energy is released when 1 kg of fuel is burned. So coming to the eighth question, they have asked how CO2 is better fire extinguisher. If you refer my previous video, there I have actually explained this CO2 molecules actually goes and sit on the surface of the substance which has already caught fire, and it makes the substance less available for the oxygen which is present in the atmosphere. So at that time, combustion goes on reducing. When combustion goes on reducing, fire slowly gets extinguished. So in this manner, CO2 make the substance less available for the oxygen molecules, and hence thereby actually it extinguishes the fire caught up by that substance. Coming to the ninth question, they have asked a heap of green color leaves catch up fire very late, but a heap of dry leaves will catch up fire immediately. Why? Because this dry leaves has already lost water molecules from it. So when water molecules is lost from the leaves, the ignition temperature of that particular leaves will get reduced. So that's why even with less temperature, the dry leaves get more and more fire. But if you consider the green leaves, it actually contains more amount of water content in it. So when more amount of water is present in that particular green leaves, it will actually obstruct. The ignition temperature will be more because of the presence of water molecules in that green leaves. So that's why green leaves will catch up fire very late. It is not that easy to burn green leaves, but whereas the dry leaves has already lost the water molecules, hence burning these dry leaves is very much easier. Coming to the 10th question, which part of the flame does a goldsmith use to burn the metal of silver or gold? So you might have seen the diagram of flame. The outermost part of that flame is known as outer zone, because outer zone has complete combustion of carbon, hence that outer zone contains more and more heat. Because that outer zone contains more and more heat, goldsmith actually blows air to that outer zone and creates more and more combustion to happen in that outer zone, so that thereby creating more and more heat energy, so that he can easily melt the gold and silver metals. So that's why goldsmith always uses the outer zone of the flame, because that outer zone contains more heat energy. So coming to the 11th question, they have actually asked a problem where 4.5 kg of fuel is actually burnt, and the total amount of heat energy which is released when we burn 4.5 kg of this fuel is 1,80,000 kilojoules. So what is the calorific value of this fuel? So that is the question, that is the problem which they have given in this 11th question. So we know that calorific value is the amount of energy which is released when 1 kg of fuel is burnt. That is, in the numerator there will be energy and in the denominator there will be the amount of fuel. So here the formula for calculating calorific value is the amount of energy released divided by the amount of fuel which has got burnt. So energy divided by amount of fuel. So what is the energy released? That is 1,80,000 kilojoules. The amount of fuel which has got burnt is 4.5 kg. So this 1,80,000 is actually kilojoules and this 4.5 is actually kg. So when you divide 1,80,000 with 4.5, the answer which you get is 40,000. So 40,000 in numerator you have kilojoules. So write kilojoules as it is. In denominator you have left with kg. So 40,000 kilojoule per kg is the calorific value of this fuel. So this is the answer for 11th question. In 12th question, they have asked whether rusting is known as combustion or not. So here rusting is not known as combustion, because before answering to this question, we will understand what is rusting. The iron atoms which is present on the iron rod will actually react with the oxygen molecules and form iron oxide. So this iron oxide is actually known as rust. But in combustion what happens is that carbon which is present in the fuel actually reacts with oxygen, and more carbon dioxide and carbon monoxide is generated into the atmosphere. So here actually carbon is getting reacted with oxygen and produces flame. So when it produces flame, that process is known as combustion. But when iron is actually reacted with oxygen, iron oxide is formed, and that rust remains on the iron. It never causes combustion. So rusting is not known as combustion. So hence answer for this question is that rusting is not combustion. 13th question, there are two students named Abida and Ramesh. Abida actually takes water inside a beaker and places that beaker in the yellow part of the flame. So yellow part is the middle part of this flame. So she keeps this beaker in this middle part which contains water, and Ramesh actually keeps the beaker on the outermost part of the flame. So Abida has one beaker which is kept at the yellow part of this flame, and Ramesh has one beaker which is kept at the outermost zone of this flame. Whose water will get boiled quickly? That is the question. Here we all know that the yellow region of this flame contains less heat energy and the outermost zone of this flame contains more heat energy. So hence Ramesh beaker receives more heat energy, whereas Abhidas beaker receives less heat energy. Hence water present in Ramesh beaker will boil quickly than the water present in the Abhidas beaker. So in this video I have explained the answers for questions present in the chapter Combustion and Flame. So in my next videos I will be teaching the next science chapters of the same 8th standard. So if you want to see those videos and if you also want to see physics, chemistry and mathematics explanation starting from 8th standard till 12th standard, then you should subscribe my channel. Please do subscribe to my channel and stay tuned with my channel so that I will be uploading more and more physics, chemistry and mathematics related videos. Thank you.